Welcome back to Stadium Hot Dog. This series, Archie's Football Grounds of London, will be based on the Scottish engineer Archibald Leach and how pivotal his football grounds were to the development, histories as well as identities of the football clubs that he worked with during the early 20th century. In 2006, Arsenal said goodbye to their Highbury home, which was one of the most recognisable football grounds with the Art Deco styles of the East and West stands. The modernisations to the ground after Arsenal's departure resulted in flats being built, the first such conversion of a listed stadium in Britain. The Art Deco design of Highbury was planned by architects Claude Ferreira and William Binney. However, Archibald Leach played an important role in finding and laying out the Highbury site, 15 years before Ferreira and Binney's involvement. Henry Norris, the then Fulham owner, had a well-established relationship with Leach. In 1904 he hired Leach to design Craven Cottage. However, after a couple of years, Norris was unsatisfied with the lack of immediate growth in his Fulham venture. There will be another episode on Craven Cottage soon. In 1910, Norris took over Woolwich Arsenal, then based in Plumstead, close to their origins at the Royal Arsenal. Arsenal stagnated in Plumstead, however they were the first London club to turn professional, as well as the first to enter the Football League. Their then home in Plumstead wasn't easy to get to by public transport, and this held back growing their fan base. Norris's original plan was to abandon the Plumstead site and merge Woolwich Arsenal at the time in the First Division with Fulham, who were in the Second Division. Norris felt that this would be the easiest way to solve the issue by moving the top flight side into a more central location. The Football League rejected Norris's proposal. Norris turned to Leach again, who found a 6-acre site which were playing fields attached to St John's College of Divinity in Highbury. The site was 10 miles away from their Plumstead home. This also meant that the club were moving very near to Tottenham Hotspur and Clapton Orient. Norris also realised a proximity to Gillespie Road Underground Station, which would be very advantageous. Highbury was a gamble, and to start with looked an expensive one too. In 1932, the club finally persuaded the London Underground to change the station's name to Arsenal. There's a separate video on Arsenal Underground Station here. Highbury cost Norris £125,000, and with the outbreak of the First World War, this further increased costs, with Arsenal relegated from the First Division after being routed bottom of the table in the 1912-1913 season. They finished 10 points behind Chelsea and 12 away from Spurs, who were both safe. When Arsenal made the move to their new home in 1913, they had accumulated a £60,000 debt. In 1914, the club changed its name to the Arsenal, and then in 1919 to Arsenal. The process for Norris was taking longer than he'd hoped for. Just like with Fulham, the cost exceeded estimations. Not wanting to be defeated when the Football League returned after the First World War in 1919, Norris pressured, some may say influenced or perhaps bribed, other members into promoting Arsenal to the First Division, despite finishing in 5th place, which was outside of the promotion places in the old Second Division. This added even more fire to the rivalry with Spurs, who were relegated to the Second Division, while their North London neighbours won a vote that secured promotion to the First Division. The Football League Board gave Arsenal 18 votes and Tottenham 8. Arsenal had never been relegated since. They hold the English record for the longest unbroken stretch of top-flight football. There'll be another series on the footballing rivalries coming soon. After making so many enemies, Norris was banned by the FA for minor rule breaches in 1927 and in 1929 resigned from his position. Into the 1930s, Norris could only watch from afar, if at all, when Herbert Chapman made the Gunners into his image and into the team of the decade with a revamped Highbury which galvanised Arsenal into an elite club in English football. Many residents were agitated by Arsenal's arrival in 1913. Much lobbying was directed at the commercial side of the game. The church commissioners, the owners of the site, were responsible for leasing the ground to Arsenal. One of the signatories to the agreement was the Archbishop of Canterbury, under the agreement that no games were to be played on Christmas Day or Good Friday, and gambling as well as alcohol were prohibited. The early years of Highbury were problematic. The wall between the West Terrace and residential gardens subsided to such an extent that a match was postponed. Most felt the development was rushed, perhaps as Norris wanted Leach to speed up the process to enable his own ambitions for the club to expand as quickly as possible. The East Stand was unfinished, still being used for spectators without the local council's licence. In this image you can see tarpaulins strung across the rear of the stand on the left-hand side. This image taken in March 1914, incidentally in what could be called the Norris Derby between Arsenal and Fulham. Leach blamed the lack of still supplies for the missing stays at the end of the East Stand. He managed to bide his time in the end. This was perhaps Leach's most challenging as well as one of his least successful projects. The East Stand was replaced in 1936. However, Leach was far from finished, as he delivered on the projects at Villa Park and Ibrox in the 1920s, as well as Wolverhampton Wanderers' East Stand, which was identical to Arsenal's East Stand. He most certainly learnt from his mistakes there, as many Wolves fans admired the stand. The old Highbury ground will be remembered more for the Art Deco by architects Claude Ferreira and William Binney. However, Leach played a major role in acquiring and establishing one of the most iconic grounds in English football, as well as being a part of shaping the football history of the area. Thank you for tuning in to Stadium Hot Dog. Please like, subscribe and spread the word. Also, please share your thoughts and memories and let me know what you think. Catch you next time.